Alrighty, so while we have one more game left of match week number 24, and that is the lone Sunday game between LAFC versus RSL that is going to be kicking off in about an hour at the time of this recording, I thought to kind of make sure I don't do a review very late into the night, let's actually start this review by looking at the first 6 games that happened on Saturday, and then we can, of course, do the review of the last 4 games on Saturday, and then the last game of match week number 24 between LAFC versus RSL once that game has concluded. But in terms of these 10 games action that we have so far, well, there was definitely some firsts that we've seen in some of these games, and certainly a couple of teams finally broke a long winless run that they had coming into this match week. But we start off with the first game between the Galaxy versus the Rapids, and this game, of course, ended in a 1-1 draw between both of these teams. And overall, I think the draw kind of reflect this game, as I thought both teams had some big opportunity to get the winning goal in this one, especially in the first half, where I actually have no idea how this one ended 0-0 heading into halftime with the amount of opportunity that was coming in both ends. Now, in the first minute, Estevez did put it wide after a lightning counterattack from the Rapids before Lewis Shaw took a deflection that goes straight to Bond. But early on, Colorado was already pushing for the opener from the get-go. Bond did head to deny Barrios in the near post in the 8th minute before, on the other end, Chicharito had a free header, but he missed high in the 10th minute. Chicharito, of course, getting the start in this game, and then he ended up playing 61 minutes in this one, and you can kind of see that he was still not 100% fit, but, you know, he had a couple of opportunity to maybe get a goal in this game, and obviously when he is not 100% fit, it's unsurprising that he's not up to the level that he was in the beginning of the season. I mean, I think just give him maybe another 2 or 3 games, and I think he should be back to the Chicharito we know from the beginning of the year. Now, in the 28th minute, Leggett did put it wide on the header, and all of a sudden, the Galaxy were now looking at the one that was pushing for the equalizer. Yarbo absolutely robbed Kevin Cabral, who was through on goal, and, you know, this is kind of the frustrating thing that Galaxy fans have always said about Kevin Cabral, because as much as he has scored some big goals for this team this season, he has also missed some big opportunity in big moments, and this was a big moment where he went through on goal, and, you know, Yarbo did a good job in terms of making himself as big as possible, but that is one that Kevin Cabral would definitely want to have back. But in the 41st minute, the post denied Lewis and Colorado the opener before Bond had to deny Marc-Anthony Kaye on the header. And in the game, as I said, you know, it was very even, and both teams having a lot of chances to get the opening goal. Somehow we had to halftime 0-0 between the Rapids and the Galaxy. Now in the second half, Lewis did have a shot that took a deflection, but it went wide in the 51st minute. Before Wilson actually had a shot that was blocked off the line by Steres, and then on the follow-up, Estevez tried to score on the second attempt for the Rapids during that sequence, but his shot is dragged wide on the follow-up. But yeah, the Rapids was once again pushing to trying to get the opening goal. Dos Santos did put one wide from long range in the 64th minute, before in the 66th minute, we finally have ourselves the first goal of the game that was way overdue. And it's Barrios, the one that scores the opening goal of this game, as he scored from Shinyashiki and Colin Werner for the Rapids to give them a 1-0 lead. But that lead would not last very long, because 13 minutes later, the Galaxy equalized. And it's Grandsir who come off the bench in this game, scoring from Steres to tie the game up at 1 apiece. And really, as the time winds down, both teams was trying to push for a winner, but ultimately both teams weren't able to do so, as it ended in a 1-1 draw. As the shots in this one, 16 shots compared to 8 that the Galaxy had. Both teams had 3 shots on goal, 6 shots off target compared to 4 that the Galaxy had, 7 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that the Galaxy had, and possession-wise, 48% possession compared to 52% possession that the Galaxy has in this game. And in a game that was relatively even, I think, you know, if you wanted me to talk about who is the more happier side, I think the Galaxy will be the more happier side, even though they had some good chances to win this game, because, you know, the Rapids, they had a big opportunity to take the lead of the Western Conference temporarily, but they weren't able to do so, and they're still in second place in the Western Conference. Although I think actually now they're back in third place, because I know SKC also won later that night. But that being said, moving on into the next match, to the team that is still at the top of the Western Conference is the Seattle Sounders, who, you know, coming into this game, I did tell you guys before that there was pretty much no chance that Minnesota was going to win this. Like, they would need, like, a miracle if they are going to beat the Sounders away. And, you know, the only miracle I was hoping is that maybe with the way the Sounders kind of look shaky at home this season, maybe the Loons can capitalize. No. In the end, the Sounders were able to get all 3 points. Although, I will say this, the Sounders didn't really look that good in this game, in that the Loons, you know, I didn't think this was a bad performance by them. I thought at times they really were trying to push this Sounders defense and really gave them all that they can handle. But the problem with this team is that they just don't have a goal scored. And when you don't have a goal scored like this Loons team has, this is kind of the performance that they're going to get. Now, in the second minute, Miller did deny Ladero on a 24-yard free kick before Fragapane puts it wide from close range, as there was definitely chances for both teams early in this game, but at least early in this one, I thought there was a lot of possession the Sounders was having, as the Loons elected to kind of sit back and absorb the pressure. Madrona hits the side netting from close range in the 10th minute before Miller robbing both Benezet and Bruin on that sequence. And again, the Sounders were pushing for, well, actually not for the winner. Well, eventually it was the winning goal, but they were definitely pushing for a go-ahead goal. And, you know, I was kind of concerned the fact that the Loons was just getting pinned back in their own half, and is this just one of those games where they're going to get absolutely destroyed by the Sounders? And in the 22nd minute, it looked like that was the start of it, because the Sounders finally break through after all the dominance that they had in the opening 22 minutes. As João Paulo, remember that guy that scored an absolute goal also in the first ever meeting between both of these team in the first game of the season? Well, he scored again here from Benezet to give the Sounders a 1-0 lead, and that's also his second goal of the season. So João Paulo must really love playing against Minnesota United, because it seems like this season he only scored when he is playing against Minnesota, as it is in this match. And I also kind of wrote the Loons has just been non-existent since the 5th minute. I mean, they have just been under siege for so much, and I was worried that this could potentially get ugly. But I will say this: eventually things kind of turn around for this team. Dotson did flick one that was right to Stefan Frei. Hassani Dotson was actually playing in the midfield position, which, yeah, let's try and maybe never put him back in that position, because you can clearly see he was not comfortable whatsoever in that position. Finley then hit one straight to Stefan Frei from close range, and that was a big opportunity, because Finley actually went through on goal, but he couldn't put a lot of power into it to get past Stefan Frei. Oh, by the way, Stefan Frei making his return in this game for the Seattle Sounders. I'm kind of surprised they didn't kind of mention it throughout the broadcast, and I was actually watching the Seattle feed as I was watching on ESPN Plus, because again, this is his first start ever since he was injured in that game against the San Jose Earthquakes all the way back in May. Now, I also kind of wrote the Loons finally started to show some life, although just as I wrote that, Benezet almost made it 2-0 in favor of the Sounders as he went through a goal, but he puts that shot wide. But we do head to halftime with Seattle leading 1-0 against Minnesota. Now, in the second half, I thought the Loons started the second half the better side, but there was kind of a very interesting situation where who knew, you know, I think he was kind of play acting a little bit, trying to kind of fake an injury, and, you know, even though when you try to do that, you make sure you have to be off the pitch unless the referee tells you to come back on. Well, in this instance, there was kind of a WTF pass from the Sounders, and who knew who was on the ground just a couple of seconds ago. He all of a sudden felt like he didn't have a knock whatsoever, so he basically came back onto the pitch, but unfortunately he still puts that one wide. I mean, if that went in, it wouldn't have counted either way, because, you know, who knew he was never waved back by the referee, and when you, of course, went down with an injury and you're off to the side, you're not allowed to get back on the pitch unless the referee says so. But this also kind of just summarized how, yeah, you know, that the great performance that Adrian Hunou has against Houston, yeah, it feels like in this game it was kind of a bit of a mirage, because, you know, if you miss that kind of big opportunity, even though I know it was kind of an illegal move for them, you know, he's not probably gonna get a goal. And, you know, in the 51st minute, he did have another opportunity as he tried to flick a header that went wide. I also thought that the final ball was just not there from the Loons, and there was also at times too many ill-advised pass or back pass from the Loons. I mean, there was a couple of times where they just put a very poor back pass or Tyler Miller, and there was a couple of times the Sounders could have easily capitalized on the mistake, and fortunately for the Loons backline, they were made to pay in this one. But in the 60th minute, Hunu then hits one that goes high from long range before Will Bruin puts it high from close range in the 68th minute. And really, as the time winds down, the Sounders was just sitting in that low block and trying to hold on to that 1-0 lead. And as soon as I saw them try to do that, yeah, I know they're going to hold on to the 1-0 lead, because how can you convince me the fact that this Loons team that hasn't really been great at all this season and have especially struggle against teams that try to bunker against them, how in the world are they going to do so? Especially how the Sounders this season have been one of the most defensive organized teams in the league. Yeah, there's just no way that they're going to snatch a late equalizer, and that turns out to be the case. In the end, the Sounders were able to walk away with a 1-0 victory, as the shots in this one, 10 shots compared to 15 that Minnesota has, 5 shots on goal compared to 4 that Minnesota has, 4 shots off target compared to 7 that Minnesota has, 1 shot that was blocked compared to 4 that Minnesota has, and possession-wise, the Loons did have the better of the possession, 51% possession compared to 49% possession that the Sounders has in this game. But in the end, you know, the Sounders, this is what they do. And, you know, even though there's been times where they have played these kind of ugly kind of resort, they just know how to grind resort out. And this just kind of just shows you that this team is definitely, once again, a team that could compete for MLS Cup. Because when you're a championship level of a team like the Seattle Sounders is and able to grind resort even it's not your day, yeah, this is definitely a very dangerous team going forward. But now, moving on, in terms of the next match, is going to be New England versus NYCFC. So, speaking of championship contender, New England is definitely one of those teams, as they were able to get a win in this one. And it looks like they're trying to start another long winning streak, as they got some revenge after having their last long unbeaten streak and their last long winning streak come to an end in the hands of NYCFC. Although, you know, I thought NYCFC actually played well into this game up until when they basically had a man send off, and that pretty much just changed everything in this one. Now, in the second minute, Turner did deny Castellanos before Morales' header goes wide from close range, and, you know, NYCFC off to a great start in this game, and they were rewarded by that great start by getting the game's opening goal. It's Santiago Rodriguez scoring for Castellanos to give NYCFC a 1-0 lead, but unfortunately that lead would not last long, because in the 21st minute, Emmanuel Boateng would ties it up from Kiza to tie the game up at 1 apiece for New England, and that was really the first opportunity that the Revs had in this game, and you can even say that it was kind of against the run of play, but, you know, this is what the Revs can do and what a championship contender team can do, where even though when they definitely are second best at times, they could somehow find a way to get a crucial goal to really completely turn the game on its heads and score a goal against the run of play. But NYCFC did have a chance to get that lead back, as Thiago's shot actually was clear off the line by Kessler, so they came very, very close to do so. And if it wasn't for Henry Kessler with a heroic clearance off the line, NYCFC would have retook the lead. But that being said, just 3 minutes later, New England could have took the lead before halftime, as McNamara struck the post as he took a shot into the back post there, but unfortunately the post denied him and New England a chance to take the lead in this one, and we do head to halftime 1-1 between both of these teams. Now in the second half, McNamara had another opportunity as he took a long-range effort, but unfortunately that one goes wide. Before in the 52nd minute, as I said before, this is the moment when the game really changed, as Morales basically got his second yellow card and NYCFC was down to 10 men. And when you are facing against the best team in the league and you're down to 10 men, and especially on the road, yeah, you know the inevitable is going to happen. And I'm pretty sure the Revs know they are really smelling, they can really smell blood and really go for the kill, because in the 60th minute, Bruce Arena and the Revs decided to bring on the cavalry, bringing 2 of their best attacking players in Adam Buxaw and Tajon Buchanan off the bench, and that sub instantly paid off, because just 5 minutes after that subs happened, Buchanan gets on the score sheet from Carlos Hill and Farrell to give New England a 2-1 lead. They did have a couple of opportunities to make it 3-1 as time winds down. Johnson did deny Hill, and then on the follow-up, Buchanan tried to score his second goal and trying to kind of hit this one top in, but this one was actually kind of clear off the line. And actually, he was kind of trying, actually not top in, but more like he was trying to casually tap this one in because he was just wide open there. And I think maybe he was just being a little bit too casual with that, but nevertheless, it was clear off the line from NYCFC. Before late in the game, Buchanan had another opportunity, but Johnson was able to deny that. And then after that, it was Buxa going through on goal. Looked like that he was going to put the cherry on the top for New England, but unfortunately he missed just a little bit wide on that left side of the post. But didn't matter because right after that miss, the full-time whistle was blown, and New England able to get their second consecutive win, and again starting to look like they're going through another long unbeaten run and a winning streak that they're going through, as they were able to knock off NYCFC 2-1 in this game. Shots in this one, 12 shots compared to 10 that NYCFC had, 6 shots on goal compared to 3 that NYCFC had, 5 shots off target compared to NYCFC had, 1 shot that was blocked compared to 4 that NYCFC had, and possession-wise, 58% possession compared to 42% possession that NYCFC has in this game. And, you know, for NYCFC, I know they'll be a little bit frustrated with this performance because I thought they played well in this game, and there were times where they were toe-to-toe with New England, but that red card really hurt them. Like, again, you simply cannot afford to have a player sent off and expect you're still going to get a result against a New England team that is literally the best team in the league and are looking to win the Supporters Shield this season. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is going to be the Atlantic Cup between the Red Bulls versus DC United, and there was definitely some fireworks early in this one, as in the 5th minute, the Red Bulls actually took an early lead, as Drew Yearwood was able to score from Klimala to give the Red Bulls a 1-0 lead, but then DC quickly were looking to try to get the equalizer on the other end, as Cornell absolutely raw Burnbaum, who tried to stab one in from close range, but Cornell with some cat-like reflexes to deny him there. And then Alfaro heads it wide from close range in the 9th minute before Kamara heads it wide from a delivery from the corner. And as I said, DC was definitely pressing to try to get the equalizer after finding themselves down 1-0 early in this game. Now, in the 31st minute, Keppen was able to deny Edwards, who took a long-range effort that actually kind of took a deflection, but unfortunately goes wide. But then there was a penalty that was given to DC after originally there was no penalty that was called, but the referee decided to go to VAR to see whether or not if Nealis did handball that one in the box. And when the referee saw the VAR, he deemed that Nealis did handball in the box. And as I said, it's a penalty for DC and a chance for them to get the equalizer, which they would get, as Kamara would slot away the tying goal to tie this game up at 1 apiece, and that will also be the scoreline as we head into the second half. Now in the second half, the Red Bulls was definitely on the front foot early again and looked to try to take the lead back, but they didn't really test John Kempen a lot in this second half, even though they were kind of on the front foot. I mean, there was a couple of half chances for the Red Bulls, but none really kind of troubled DC and especially the goalkeeper John Keppen. But in the 74th minute, we did have some tempers flare after Reyna and Edwards kind of have some choice words with each other after a tussle that was going on. I mean, just a reminder that this is a rivalry, and this is a game that, you know, both of these teams do not like it whenever they play in this Atlantic Cup derby. But in the 80th minute, Reyna, I thought he clearly should have scored this go-ahead goal for DC, as he missed wide on just an absolute free header, and you know that's going to be one that he's going to think about a long time because how the resort would end up. But then on the other end, Fabio also had a chance to give the Red Bulls the winner, as he missed on a point-blank effort from close range, and despite the fact that both teams were trying to maybe get that crucial second goal late in this game, it ends in a 1-1 draw between both of these teams, as the shots in this one, 10 shots compared to 8 that DC had, 3 shots on goal compared to 2 that DC had, 3 shots off target compared to 4 that DC had, 4 shots that was blocked compared to 2 that DC had, and possession-wise, 55% possession compared to 45% possession that the Red Bulls has in this game. And overall, I don't think either of these teams will be happy with this draw, because for the Red Bulls, more drop points at home, where in a part of the season where they just cannot afford to drop any more points if they want to get themselves back to playoff contention. And for DC, you know, even though they did get themselves up to 6th place in the Eastern Conference with this draw, they are only 1 point above Atlanta, heading into that big showdown between them and Atlanta next week. And yeah, you know, if they want to stay above the red line, they cannot afford to drop points, even though if they're playing on the road, because like I said, you know, Atlanta alongside with Miami, as I will talk about a little bit later, is in hot pursuit in terms of trying to get those playoffs spot and go above the red line in the Eastern Conference. But now moving on into the next match, and for the first time in what seems like a long time now, I'm actually wearing FC Cincinnati jersey in a review because it has finally happened. They finally get their first ever win at TQL Stadium, and all this talk about whether or not if they're going to get their first win before the U.S. Women's National Team is going to be, and how it could be a bit embarrassed that the U.S. Women's National Team would be the first team to get a home win at TQL Stadium. Well, again, that conversation is now being dismissed because, again, they finally got a win, first win at TQL Stadium, and their first home win against TFC. Now, granted, this was a wooden spoon derby, and you know, when you have a wooden spoon derby, technically the winner of this team isn't really kind of the winner, because you know, the loser will get to have the chance to kind of raise the wooden spoon at the end of the year. But I'm pretty sure in an FC Cincinnati perspective, they definitely do not want to win that wooden spoon for the 3rd year in a row. Although early on, it definitely looked like TFC kind of also didn't show that they don't want to win the wooden spoon early too, because they actually were the better team for majority of the first half. Mavinga had a chance in the 2nd minute that was mishide on the header before he had another chance on a header, but unfortunately he puts that one wide too in the 9th minute. There was a shout for a penalty from TFC, not given by the referee, but again, TFC was definitely the better team early in this one. Mavinga did blast a volley over the bar in the 21st minute. I mean, it's quite amazing the fact that Mavinga, who is a defender for TFC, actually were the one that has the best opportunity early for this TFC team. But in the 29th minute, after Cincinnati kind of been under siege for the opening part of this game, they finally had an opportunity to get the opening going, kind of almost score against the run of play, as Medunian tried to do so, but Westbrook was able to deny him there, and as I mentioned, that was Cincinnati's first chance of the game. But 3 minutes later, Titan had to deny Endo from 19 yards out. I'm pretty sure Cincinnati fans were really relieved when they found out the starting 11 was Przemysław Titan in goal, because they would be pretty much pulling their hair if Vermeer was starting in this game. And I also think that if Vermeer was actually in this game, FC Cincinnati probably would have lost this one, and they probably would have gave away a couple of goals in this one. I mean, it's not that, you know, coming in this game, I thought that at times Titan was kind of a little bit shaky, and he did kind of bobble some of the long range effort, but at least he was much secure hands compared to Vermeer, where it just feels like every time you shoot toward him, he's gonna either allow a juicy rebound to the opponent, or he just kind of bobbles it and let the opposition a chance to get a rebound. So again, I'm pretty sure Cincinnati fan was very happy when they see Titan in goal, and they kind of sensed that they did have a chance to win this game, and that first belief that they could actually win this game happened in the 39th minute, as they were able to take the lead, and it's Bernier who scored from Acosta to give FC Cincinnati a 1-0 lead. And even though Bernier has definitely not lived up to the $15 million price tag, that was actually a great finish from Bernier to get himself, I believe this is his, 5th goal of the season. Though that being said, you know, in the 43rd minute, we kind of saw the reason why Bernier is not worth the $15 million price tag, as he literally had a sitter from 6 yards out, and he basically missed that one wide. But no doubt the momentum was with Cincinnati up to that point. Barriel tried to double Cincinnati lead before halftime, but he puts it high from close range. But we do head to halftime with the host having a 1-0 lead. Now, in the second half, Bernier had another chance to score his second goal, but he hits it to the side netting after just kind of a WTF turnover from Toronto. But nevertheless, Cincinnati were able to get that second goal. And it's Medunian, the one that gets the second goal to give FC Cincinnati a 2-0 lead. Although this goal was kind of a little bit fortunate for FC Cincinnati. And oh, by the way, that goal, of course, was assisted by Barrial and Acosta, because, you know, when Medunian basically hits this one into traffic, it took a wicked deflection off of a couple of TFC defender, and it completely wrong-footed Westbrook there with that attempt. And, you know, with how many bad luck that FC Cincinnati has had in this season, I feel like for once, maybe the MLS gods have finally started to show them some mercy and finally give them some luck in terms of this chances. But that being said, you know, as we head to the latter part of this game, even with FC Cincinnati leading 2-0, if you're a Cincinnati fan, you know that, one, this is too good to be true that they're going to finally win their first game at TK Stadium, because they will find a way to potentially blow this 2-0 lead. And late in the game, there was a couple of opportunities for TFC to get one back as Satado blasts one that was into the Bailey. Though that being said, Kubo did also have a chance to really put this game away as he hits it high from 30 yards out. But in the 79th minute, Titan was able to deny De Leon as TFC was continued to pile forward to try to set up a grandstand finish in this game. And if you're a Cincinnati fan, you know that eventually that goal is going to come from TFC, right? Well, for once, it never came, as Cincinnati, for once, were able to hold on to a 2-0 lead in this game to finally get their first ever win at TK Stadium. As the shots in this one, 13 shots compared to 10 that Cincinnati has, 4 shots on goal compared to 5 that Toronto has. Both teams had 6 shots off target, 2 shots that was blocked compared to none that FC Cincinnati has. And possession-wise, 51% possession compared to 49% possession that Toronto has in this game. And even though, you know, both of these teams are pretty much out of the Eastern Conference playoff picture, it has to be good if you're a Cincinnati fan, where there hasn't been a lot for them to cheer about this season, but this is something that they're definitely going to be cheer about for a long time, because it's a historic night for them to finally get their first ever win at TK Stadium after they're waiting for that for probably longer than they were hoping for ever since the stadium was completed and debuted back in May. But as I said, for TFC, yeah, I mean, you know, if there isn't any doubt that their season is done a couple of weeks ago, and, you know, I even said that before, I kind of was hoping maybe somehow they have a late season resurgence. Yeah, that is not going to happen. And even if they do have a late season resurgence, they're just way too far back and from the playoff picture, and now they just are hoping they can maybe stay off of being winning the wooden spoon, which if they do win the wooden spoon, not only the fact that TFC will probably be arguably one of the most disappointing teams this season, but for what a fall from grace it has been for this team, where it was not long a couple of years ago where they were winning MLS Cup, and as soon as last year they came close to potentially winning the Supporters Shield, and now they're going to be potentially winning the wooden spoon heading into the end of the season. But now, moving on into the next match, is going to be Inter Miami versus Columbus. So, as I said, you know, Miami is another team alongside with Atlanta that is definitely putting a lot of pressure on teams that is above the red line in the Eastern Conference. And, by the way, when you look at the East, all of a sudden, the East, in terms of the playoff race, is kind of like the Western Conference a couple of weeks ago, where it all of a sudden started to become a little bit logjam, as between 5th through 9th place, I think there's only like a 5-point gap between all these teams. But one thing Miami does have an advantage over those teams that is ahead of them is they still have that game in hand, and that, you know, it's really now that if they do win that game in hand, they could actually get themselves above the red line. But, you know, in this game, they definitely helped their cause by winning 1-0 against Columbus in a game that was relatively kind of uneventful. There wasn't really much that happened, but early on, Zarian did try a long-range effort that is put wide off the target. Before, in the 16th minute, that was the winning. We got ourselves in the 60th minute, we got ourselves the opening goal and the only goal of this game, as Gonzalo Higuain would score to make it 1-0 in favor of Miami. I think that's the 10th goal that Higuain has scored this season. And, you know, again, a lot of people haven't talked about how Gonzalo Higuain, you know, even with the disappointing year that he had last season, he started to kind of live up to that $7 million price tag that Inter Miami paid him, and started to quietly putting himself a very good season. But that being said, you know, this goal, he might want to thank Josh Williams for this goal, because this was just a WTF turnover from Williams. Just literally gift wrapped it to Higuain, and when you gift wrap to Higuain like that and he went through and go, yeah, you're going to be punished 99 out of 100 time, and that is the case, as that gave Miami a 1-0 lead. But on the other end, Columbus were looking to try to tie it up immediately, as Etienne had a point-blank effort that goes straight to Marsman. Then Room had to deny Robinson from 20 yards out, and the chances were kind of coming for both of these teams, although, like I said, you know, for majority of the game, it was quite uneventful, and this was really kind of the only time where we really saw the game really kind of open up and both teams having chances on either end. In the 38th minute, Harrison did flick one that actually was clear off the line by Figal before Higuain tried to score his second goal, as he drive one that goes wide. And as we were approaching halftime and the halftime whistle was blown, there was some tempers flare between Wormgood and Gonzalo Perez, and I'll tell you what, Vito Wormgood, he definitely had some huge balls in terms of trying to do what he did here, because anytime when you decide to push Gonzalo Perez down the ground, yeah, you're going to hear it from LGP, and you know, LGP definitely was not happy about that, but I thought that could have gone a lot worse, and I thought the referee did a good job in terms of separating both of these players immediately, because they didn't, it could have got ugly, because you know LGP is a bit of a hothead, and with him just gonna get pushed off by an opposition, I thought he was going to really flare up, and he was going to really be angry about Wormgood on that, but thankfully nothing really kind of happened, and I don't think either of these players actually got a yellow card from this instant. But we do head to halftime with Miami having a 1-0 lead over Columbus. Now in the second half, there was a couple of half chances for Columbus, but again, nothing really troubled Marsman. Williams did try to redeem himself after a mistake that he had early in the first half, but he hits this one into the side netting in the back post. And really, as the clock kind of winds down, Columbus, you know, they kind of try to throw the kitchen sink, and Miami was trying to bunker to look to hold on to that 1-0 lead. But, you know, in the end, again, there wasn't really a lot of opportunity, even though it looks like Columbus was desperate to get the equalizer. Although Marsman did have to make one more save at the start of stoppage time, as he had to deny Etienne from close range there. But in the end, Miami able to win 1-0 against Columbus. That's their 5th straight win that they have at home after not winning a home game for the first couple of games. I think for the first 4 or 5 home games in the season. And like I said, this is another team that is definitely rising up in the Eastern Conference and are really knocking on the door to try to go above the red line. As the shots in this one, only 12 shots combined for both of these teams. Only 5 shots compared to 7 that Columbus had. 2 shots on goal compared to 3 that Columbus had. 2 shots off target compared to 3 that Columbus had. Both teams had 1 shot that was blocked, and possession-wise, 57% possession compared to 43% possession that Miami has in this game. And while Miami is definitely on the ascent, Columbus is on the other end of it. Like, this is really concerning if you're a Crew fan, knowing the fact that it's now 1 win out of the last 8 games for this team. And yeah, you know, the defending champ is starting to look like though they're heading to the wrong direction, and really are getting to a point where, you know, unless if they can rediscover that good form that they had in the beginning of the season, this team could actually miss the playoffs. And this would be one of the few teams we have seen that, of course, won MLS Cup in the previous year to miss the playoffs the very next season. But that being said, I am actually going to wait until to talk about the last 5 games or the last 4 games in terms of the Saturday night action, because, you know, I'm going to now about to watch LAFC versus RSL, and once that game is concluded, I of course will switch boards and look at the last 5 games that happened in match week number 24. Well, that LAFC versus RSL game have just finished, and we'll definitely talk about that game in a bit, because that was no doubt the best game I think we saw from match week number 24. But let us get back to where we left off, which first now talk about Montreal versus Nashville SC. And even though the scoreline doesn't tell it, this was probably the most dominant performance that Nashville has had on the road this season. And the only reason why they have only won by a final score of 1-0 is James Pentemis. I mean, he literally kept Montreal in this game as long as possible, but ultimately Montreal just could not quite find that goal to maybe salvage a point in this game against Nashville SC. Now, early on in the 7th minute, Pentimus was able to deny Rios before Rios did get a second crack of it, but unfortunately he struck that onto the post. Then Sapon had a header that goes straight to Pentimus just 1 minute later, and there was no doubt that Nashville was starting out as the better side in the first 10 minutes. But that being said, Johnson did have an opportunity to give Montreal the lead and kind of score against the run of play, but he puts it wide from long range before Pentimus, again, coming up big, denying Sapon from long range, and then Mukhtar just drags it wide from close range in the 38th minute. And then after that, the field might basically decide to cut out. Basically, we heard nothing from the field or from the fans or even from the action, as all we just heard is the commentators for this game, and it must be kind of awkward to just kind of watch a game and all we heard is basically the commentator commentating in a game that was just completely mute. Obviously, this is not the first time I've seen this happen this year. Remember that League Cup game between NYCFC versus Pumas, and how literally it was just such a clusterfuck that at the end of the day they literally just kind of cut out the field mic because they couldn't get it working properly, and all we heard is basically the commentator throughout the game. Now, thankfully, TSN did fix that, and in the second half we heard the field mic again alongside with the commentator. But in the 47th minute, in the second half, again, Pentimus coming up big, denying Sapon from close range before 14 minutes later, he made another save on Sapon, this time from 20 yards out. And again, once again, Nashville was pushing the opener, and as I said, Pentimus is kind of the only reason why this game was at 0-0, but you knew that eventually Nashville, with all the pressure that they're going to put, they're going to get that opening goal, and it happened in the 66th minute. And it's their captain, Walker Zimmerman, scoring from Mukhtar to make it 1-0 in favor of Nashville, and this was just such a Walker Zimmerman goal. Beautiful delivery, that this one from Mukhtar from the free kick, and you know Zimmerman is a very dangerous whenever the ball comes into the box. Surprisingly, I think this is only his first goal of this season, but, you know, even though he hasn't had a goal in this season, you know he's going to be the dangerous man, and when you decide to let him completely unmarked like that, as what that Montreal backline does, yeah, you're most likely going to get punished. And finally, Nashville, after pretty much getting stonewalled by Pentimus all game, able to get the opening goal of this game. But they could have made it 2-0 in the 70th minute, as Mukhtar tried to make get 2-0, but he curls it high on the free kick before Willis had to deny Kiza in the 73rd minute. You know, Willis kind of had a relatively quiet night, but he had to make a save here to keep this one being at 1-0 before Pentimus actually once again make a save this time, denying Mukhtar, as Nashville was looking to try to put this one away. Pentimus, I believe, would end up making 7 saves in this game, and again, it's a shame the fact that he's probably not going to be named player of the week, or even maybe be on the team of the week, because, you know, Montreal ends up on the losing cost. But yeah, you know, what a performance he has in this game, and it's kind of unfortunate that his performance kind of came out to a waste for Montreal, because Nashville would eventually hold on to win 1-0 in this game. And as the shots in this game, Montreal did have more of the shots, 14 compared to 13 that Nashville has. But when you look at the shots on goal, 8 shots on goal for Nashville SC compared to 3 that Montreal has. 7 shots off target for the 2 that Nashville has. 4 shots that was blocked for the 3 that Nashville has. And possession-wise, 59% possession compared to 41% possession that Nashville SC has in this game. And, you know, for Nashville, this is definitely great news for them in their cases to potentially finish near the top part of the Eastern Conference, because, you know, coming into this home stretch, there was definitely a lot of question of whether or not if Nashville can continue to grab victories on the road, since they have a very heavy road stretch, and able to secure themselves in the top part of the table. And at least in these last 2 games, they've now got back-to-back road wins and are on their way to do so. But, you know, for Montreal, this is definitely not a good performance whatsoever. And, you know, now they are that team that once again find themselves being the last team that is above the red line. And again, there is some really good team behind them that is in hot pursuit of trying to take that playoff spot away from them. So this team need to maybe get things going, which, you know, in the past, this is when we start to see Montreal start to kind of slow down and start to go through a bit of a fall and eventually finish in the disappointing 9th or 10th place spot and outside the playoff line. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, in a game where it doesn't really help either of these team with the way that Dallas and the Quakes play to a 1-1 draw, because both of these teams are kind of those teams that is kind of in this logjam that I talked about before in the Western Conference, to fight for those 2 playoff spots. But these are kind of like the last 2 teams that is in that logjam, and obviously a draw definitely does not help both of these team cases in terms of trying to once again get much closer and maybe even keep pace with some of the team that is above them to potentially get themselves in a good playoff conversation spot. But early on in the first half, 4 minutes into the game, it was a penalty given to the Quakes as Hedges handball in the box. So, you know, it's kind of a deja vu moment all over again, because remember when the Quakes play against FC Dallas back in, I think, the second game of the season, Hedges basically commit a handball that gave the penalty to the Quakes, and here just a couple months later, he basically does the same thing, and Alanis was able to put away that penalty and give the Quakes an early 1-0 lead. But that was pretty much all the fun that the Quakes will have for a while, because from then on, this is when FC Dallas really started to put on the gas pedal, and we're looking to try to get one back. In the 7th minute, Fiera just puts it wide from a long-range effort before Slovenia in the 24th minute puts it wide from long range. And again, Dallas had all the possession in this game, and the Quakes was just pretty much getting pinned in their own half and was just getting under their siege throughout this game. Now, with the way how the Quakes have been defending much better in these last couple of games, I wasn't that concerned the fact that they would eventually gave up a goal, and that, you know, if this was maybe in the past where the Quakes, I've seen them being under siege on the road, yeah, I was expecting them to potentially give up a goal very quickly. But, you know, despite that, they were still under siege in a way where I'm just hoping eventually they maybe can ride out the storm and get themselves back in the game. But that was not the case for the remaining part of the first half, because in the 30th minute, Quignon had a header that goes high before Mark Sinkowski had to made a couple of saves, first denying O'Brien in the 31st minute, and then denying Paxton Palmico in the 35th minute before O'Brien puts it wide from a long-range effort. And then in the 40th minute, Mark Sinkowski basically denied Fiera, and up until that point, I basically just wrote the only good news for the Quakes right now, despite the fact that it's just wave after wave of pressure they have to deal from Dallas, is that it is almost halftime. But in the 44th minute, Quignon heads it just wide from close range before Mark Sinkowski had to deny Quignon in the 3rd minute of stoppage time. And despite the fact that Dallas had tons of opportunity to get the equalizer, the Quakes somehow survived, and they were able to get a 1-0 lead heading into the second half. But unfortunately, as we get into the second half and 4 minutes in, eventually that pressure that Dallas put on the Quakes paid off, because in the 49th minute, Ricardo Pepi scored from Justin Che to tie the game up at 1 apiece. And, you know, remember how I said in the preview how I had a feeling Ricardo Pepi is going to score against the Quakes? You know, I don't want to say I told you so, but yeah, I told you so. I even called it. I knew this was eventually going to happen. I mean, there's one player that I knew eventually Dallas was going to harm the Quakes just like they did last time. It's Ricardo Pepi, and he showed up again, continue his hot form that he had with the national team just a couple of days ago. But in the 53rd minute, Jutson drives one from long range but missed wide. But that was really the first shot that the Quakes had in a long time. Like, they was basically just so one-sided up to that point. Though in the 57th minute, this was probably the big moment for the Quakes to retake the lead. And Wando, you know, we know Wando is always going to be considered the greatest goal scorer in MLS, and it right now is currently the top goal scored in the league history. But yeah, this is one that he definitely wants back, and you know, he had just an absolute free header from about 6 yards out, and you know, if this was prime Wando, he would bury that one 100 times out of 100 times. But you know, lately Wando has kind of slowed down a little bit, and you kind of started to see that age has started to kind of catch up to him. But still, this was just a horrendous miss from Wando. I mean, he did struck the post there, but he's got to put that away with him being just so open there in the back post. It literally was him just all he needed to do is just kind of head it into the empty net because, you know, Felipe, the Dallas goalkeeper, was clearly beat. But again, Wando just couldn't quite steer it on target and hit the post. Before 3 minutes later, Mark Sinkowski once again had to be back to his goalkeeping duty, denying Fiera from close range. Before Beeson did try to stab one in from close range, but he missed wide in the 68th minute. And then Kate Cow tried to curl one in, but it missed wide in the 74th minute. And finally, you know, the Quakes, for the first time in this game, started to have some pressure and started to maybe get that lead back in this one. But in the 84th minute, Oshun had a chance to give Dallas the lead and potentially the winner, but he hit one that was deflected and it goes wide. And despite the fact that both of these teams were trying to get that crucial second goal, it never came. It ends in a stalemate 1-1 draw between both of these teams. And as the shots in this one, 17 shots compared to 13 that the Quakes had, 7 shots on goal compared to 2 that the Quakes had. Both teams had 7 shots off target, 3 shots that was blocked compared to 4 that the Quakes had, and possession-wise, 59% possession compared to 41% possession that the Quakes has in this game. And like I said, this is going to be a very frustrating result for both teams because, you know, for the Quakes, you know, yes, they got a point out of this game, and usually I say when the Quakes do get a point on the road, it's a good thing. But knowing the fact that the Quakes have a very good record against Dallas, I was expecting more coming out of this game. And for Dallas, you know, those missed opportunity. You know, this is not the first time we've seen Dallas have wasted tons of missed opportunity and end up dropping points at home. I mean, you know, this is another one of those games that they're definitely going to look back and just wonder how in the world did they not get all 3 points, despite the fact that they were by far the better team in this one. But like I said, it doesn't help both of these teams in terms of their playoff hope because both of these teams drop points while teams above them have been able to get wins and started to pull away from them in the playoff race in the Western Conference. But now moving on in terms of the next match. Finally, it's over. Houston have finally got a win after their 16 games of winless run, and they did it against their one of their most hated rival, that is Austin FC, which actually, you know, I don't think there is a hatred between the Dynamo and Austin FC, but since, you know, anytime when there's a Copa Tias, I guess maybe MLS is going to pretend that both of these teams kind of hated each other. But also, coming into this game, I had a feeling this might be the one that the Dynamo could potentially end their winless run, because Austin has definitely not been doing well in these last couple of games, and that, you know, when you look at how the Dynamo play in this game, it definitely showed that they had enough of the 16-game winless run, and they want to make sure they don't want to break the record for the longest winless run in MLS history, because just 1 minute into the game and 45 seconds into the game, they took the lead. It's Dorsey scoring his first ever MLS goal to give Houston a 1-0 lead, and this is also the second time in the last 3 game that Houston was able to take the lead just 1 minute into this one. And they had a chance to make it 2-0 in the 7th minute when there was a shout for a penalty from the Houston faithful, but unfortunately it was not given. But early on, the Dynamo was all over. Actually, not Houston there. I don't know why I wrote the Dynamo. You know, clearly it was not all over for Houston, but more like the Dynamo was just all over Austin early in this game. Although in the 15th minute, Pochettino did have a rare opportunity for Austin as he puts it wide from long range. Before in the 24th minute, the Dynamo doubled their lead, and it's Fafa Pico that was able to make it 2-0 in favor of Houston. But in many ways, he was pretty much gift wrapped at this goal by Julio Cascante, who literally just basically misplayed that ball that was over the top, just toe poke it right into the path of Fafa Pico, and just like that, the Dynamo has a 2-0 lead, and you start thinking, is this finally the time for Houston to potentially end this winless run? And, you know, judging by the fact that Austin is not a team that is known to come back from deficit, maybe this could be the chance that Houston was going to end their 16-game winless run. But they definitely want to make sure that 2-0 was not enough to win this game, because they started to try to go for the third goal. Quintero tried to do so, and he actually had a big opportunity in the 25th minute, a sitter from very close range, but he missed that one high. Before Urruti in the 37th minute puts it wide after going through on goal on a lightning counterattack. I mean, if there's one thing the Dynamo did very well in this game is that they were very dangerous whenever they go on the break, and this was another example of that where Urruti just go on the break there, completely tear up this Austin in defense that was slow to get back on the transition, but Urruti just could not stare that one in to give the Dynamo the 3-0 lead. But he had another chance to do so in the 40th minute, but this time he also puts it high from 12 yards out. And in a dominant first half, the Dynamo deservedly were up 2-0 as we head into the second half. Now in the second half, Stuvert had to deny Pico from long range in the 48th minute before Nelson made his first save of the game, denying Ring, as I really thought that was Austin's first real chance. I mean, early on I know they had a shot from Pochettino, but that one wasn't even close to being on target. This one was actually pretty close, where Ring trying to aim top in, but Nelson was able to deny him there. But he makes it even a better save in the 63rd minute as he absolutely robbed Dominguez from point-blank range. And that turns out to be a huge save too, because on the other end, on the very same sequence, Fafa Pico scored from Hadapi to make it 3-0 in favor of Houston, and that was kind of just one of those plays where, you know, you're able to make a big save on the other end, and then you just go on the other end to basically score like that, and that's exactly what Houston did in this one, and just another example of how dangerous they were on the transition, and Austin was just not prepared whatsoever dealing with this transition that the Dynamo put on them. But in the 66th minute, Rain did curls it wide from long range before Romania heads it wide in the 77th minute. Austin, I thought, did start to dominate this game a little bit, but knowing the fact that Houston was already up 3-0, you know, the Dynamo, I thought they kind of started to put their foot off the gas a little bit and was kind of being very, very kind of a Texans neighbor, trying to give Austin false hope that they can come back into this one. But in the 85th minute, Stuvert had to made another save, this time denying Lundqvist on the volley on the near post there. But in the end, it's finally over. Houston finally end the longest active winless run this season in MLS as they snap that 16-game winless run against Austin FC by a final score of 3-0. And the shots in this one, 16 shots compared to the 15 that Austin has, 7 shots on goal compared to the 2 that Austin has, 7 shots off target compared to the 6 that Austin has, 2 shots out of block compared to the 7 that Austin has, and possession-wise, 34% possession compared to 66% possession that Austin FC has in this game. And even though I know both of these teams are pretty much not going to make the playoffs this season, you know, this game still means a lot for both of these teams, because, you know, what is now left to fight for both of these teams, and also along with FC Dallas, is definitely the Copa Tias trophy. And with Houston getting this win against Austin, things are starting to get a little bit interesting in terms of the Copa Tias standings. And, you know, the next time when the Dynamo play against FC Dallas, that is going to be a huge game to determine who exactly is going to win the first ever Copa Tias. And mind you, whoever wins the Copa Tias is actually going to get some silverware. So, you know, even though Houston might not make the playoffs, they might still get some silverware at the end of the year by winning the Copa Tias. But again, this was a huge win for them, and kind of get some redemption after what happened earlier this season when they lost to Austin on the road. But now moving on into the last match on the Saturday action is Sporting KC and the Chicago Fire, and boy do Sporting KC need this win badly. And in many ways, they got 2 quick goals in this game, and then for the remaining of the second half, they basically was just trying to hold on for dear life, and eventually able to get the 2-0 lead, and also get helped by the fact that the Fire, you know, this has been a very typical kind of Fire road game where just as you thought that, you know, they play well enough and create chances, they just aren't able to put away from them. And also they make some boneheaded kind of play in this game, in the sense that there was a goalkeeping howler, which, you know, it actually happened before, right in the 4th minute, and actually first in the 2nd minute, Amelia did had to deny Barrage on the header, or actually not Barrage, it was actually Herbert's the one that hits that one away. But the goalkeeping howler happened in the 4th minute, when Jose Mari actually get his first goal in MLS from Remy Walter, but in many ways he would love to thank Shuttleworth for gifting him his first ever career goal in MLS, because that shot was just a weak effort where it looked like Shuttleworth was just gonna catch that one, and it just kind of went through his legs and went through his glove. I mean, it was kind of something you definitely do not see happen often, and in some way that I think Bobby Shuttleworth would definitely want to have that one back with that embarrassing moment. And in some way, kind of maybe shaking him up a little bit, because in the 6th minute, he also did a bad job in terms of, trying to parry one away from a shot from Polito, and literally just gave him a big rebound, which Russell was able to pounce on that to give SKC a 2-0 lead in the 6th minute. But in the 11th minute, Shuttleworth did kind of redeem himself a little bit by making a save, although this was kind of a weird situation where Polito basically struck this one, and he kind of hits one that was off of his teammate, which I think it was Gadi Kinda, the one that kind of blocked that shot. And I don't know if Kinda accidentally kind of blocked this shot, or maybe he knew what he was doing, because that one actually was redirect to our goal, and Shuttleworth was able to do a good job in terms of pair that one away. I mean, anytime when you have a deflection kind of situation, it is definitely going to be a nightmare for a goalkeeper. But I thought Shuttleworth did a good job in terms of that. But you can definitely see that SKC was hungry to try to get more goals, and this looked like it was going to get ugly for the Chicago Fire. But credit to them, they did start to come back into this game. Herberts did hit it wide from close range in the 33rd minute, though they almost went 3-0 down if it wasn't for the post denying Polito and SKC the 3rd goal. And then Marley tried to score his 2nd goal of the game and his 2nd goal in his MLS career, but this time he missed that one wide as we head to halftime with SKC leading 2-0 against the Chicago Fire. So we go to the 2nd half, and in the 2nd half, in the 53rd minute, Stojanovic goes for an ambitious effort that just went a little bit high before Gadi Kinda tried to score on the half volley, but that one just missed a little bit high. And then Stojanovic actually had a rocket of a volley shot that he struck from about 18 yards out, but unfortunately that one struck the post, and definitely it struck the post well. I mean, that was just an absolute amazing shot that was from Stojanovic. That was very unlucky, unable to put it toward goal. And speaking of the post, Herberts was also another Fire player that was denied the post, that he also struck the post in the 63rd minute. But there was no doubt that Chicago was looking to try to get one back, and Sporting KC, they kind of started slow heading into the 2nd half, and in some way, I don't know if they kind of realized that 2-0 is a done deal and they can just sit back or whatsoever, because the Fire was really putting a lot of pressure on them. Madron had a long-range effort that goes wide in the 70th minute before Melia had to deny Chinoso over there, and I even wrote, SKC really need to get themselves back into this game, because they are just allowing way too much pressure on themselves, and really kind of almost asking for the Fire to get one back to make this a very interesting game. Stojanovic had that opportunity as he flicks it wide from close range in the 81st minute, but eventually, as the game kind of winds down, I think SKC fans kind of can breathe a little bit better, because knowing the fact that late in the game, it definitely didn't look like the Fire was going to get one back. And also, as the game winds down, you started to see chances started to go down, and the Fire kind of started to lose belief that they can get a goal back to set up a grandstand finish. And instead, SKC actually had the last opportunity as Shuttleworth was able to deny Shawi, who was going through on goal there. And despite the fact that Shawi unlucky to not get a goal in this game, his team still were able to win 2-0 in this one against the Chicago Fire. As the shots in this one, 16 shots compared to 13 that the Fire has, 6 shots on goal compared to 3 that the Fire has, 6 shots off target compared to 10 that the Fire has, 4 shots that was blocked compared to none that the Fire has, and possession-wise, 61% possession compared to 39% possession that the Chicago Fire has in this game. And like I said, this was a much-needed win for Sporting KC, who has just been in such a rough patch in these last 6 games, only winning 1 out of their last 6 games. But this one will definitely be one that can hopefully spark some confidence and trying to once again chase out the Seattle Sounders of potentially getting that top spot in the Western Conference. But now moving on into the last match of match week number 24 and the only game that happened on Sunday. And as I said, this game was a wild one. And in some way, this game kind of just summarized what MLS After Dark kind of game could look like, because there was some very strange kind of goals that went in this game. But the goal scoring all started very quickly, as just 20 seconds into this game, Arango was able to give LAFC the 1-0 lead, and that also is the fastest goal that LAFC have ever scored in franchise history. And Arango definitely looked lively, not only scoring that goal 20 seconds in, but he almost had his second goal just 5 minutes in, as he actually go through on goal, but unfortunately wasn't able to put it on target. Then Nick Beasler took a long-range effort that goes high in the 60th minute. And, you know, RSL, I thought they kind of started to dominate the possession. And, you know, LAFC, I'm not sure if they were trying to do something similar they did against SKC, which is just trying to maybe sit back and play on the counter. But RSL was definitely having a lot of possession, though at the same time, I thought they were kind of struggling in terms of trying to break down this LAFC back line and didn't really create a lot of chances. But that being said, in the 27th minute, they equalized. It's Demarc Krylak, which is LAFC nemesis, scoring here from Michael Chan to tie the game up at 1 apiece. But unfortunately, that equalizer wouldn't last long, because just 3 minutes later, LAFC would retake the lead, and it's Arango, who, as I said, he was very lively in this opening bit, and he scored his second goal in this game from Atuesta to retake the lead for LAFC just 3 minutes after they lost it from the Krylak goal. Before 2 minutes later, it almost was 2-2 again, as Morello almost scored an own goal after he tried to clear it away he tried to do a clearance header, but unfortunately just completely hits it, and he is very fortunate the fact that he hit that one, that it just flashed wide left side of the post. But yeah, this is getting to a point where this is kind of similar to what we're going to see for the rest of the game, where it was a back and forth kind of affair, and it's no wonder why we got a lot of goals that was scored in this game. Now, in the 37th minute, Duke did drive a long-range effort that goes high before Julio went through on goal, but he just missed wide in the 44th minute, and LAFC was able to head to halftime 2-1, despite the fact that it was a very back and forth game, especially the last 15 minutes of the first half. But in the second half, just 2 minutes in, RSL was able to equalize again, and this time it's Anderson Julio scoring from Rusnak to tie the game up at 2 apiece. This one, of course, come from the counterattack, which, you know, I feel like RSL is giving LAFC a little bit of a taste of their own medicine, especially for the last game of transitional play. And I thought at time in this game, LAFC definitely did not do a good job in terms of shutting down this RSL transitional attack when they go quickly on the other end. But then in the 50th minute, they looked like they were going to retake the lead very quickly, like they did in the first half, as there was a huge shout for a penalty from LAFC, as Arango thought that he was brought down in the box, and I think, was it Krylak or Ruiz the one that brought him down? But either way, there was a huge shout for a penalty. The referee actually did kind of halted play for a bit, just to go to VAR to see if that indeed is worthy enough of being a penalty, but in the end it wasn't, and LAFC didn't have the opportunity to once again retake the lead very quickly. But I thought ever since the equalizer was scored from RSL, you can definitely see LAFC was hungry to try to get that goal back or try to retake the lead, and eventually they did. But it's definitely not in a way that they kind of draw it up, as Dakovic not only scored an own goal in this incident, but this is probably one of the worst own goals I've seen so far this season. Like, this was, I don't know, was a mix-up or a miscommunication with Ochoa and Dakovic. I mean, Ochoa was coming out almost like he was going to come off his lines and gather that one, and Dakovic inexplicably decided just kind of pass back to his keeper, even though his goalkeeper was already sprinting off his line to catch that one. But either way, I mean, what a freak kind of goal that was. But, you know, LAFC, they wouldn't care. They were able to retake the lead again in that sequence. But then just 6 minutes later, it was almost free when the post denied Ruiz and RSL a chance to once again tie the game for the third time in this one. Ochoa then denied Orengo a chance to get his hattie in the 69th minute before Cifuentes tried to bend one in but missed completely high. And then in the 82nd minute, it was LAFC turn to get to be victimized by the post, and it's Cifuentes the one that gets be the latest victim of the post as he struck that one, and LAFC chance to make it 4-2 and pretty much killed this game off. And then on the other end, in the 83rd minute, Krylak kind of redirect a shot that just went wide there, and I'm not quite sure was he actually meant to do that, which, you know, on the replay I feel like he clearly didn't meant to do that, and it was kind of accidental, but he almost redirect that one toward goal, and that could have easily been free up to that point. But really up to that point, I thought the game was really on a knife edge, and I just feel like maybe there was going to be one more goals and one more late twist in this game. But as the time did wind down, RSL did start to throw the kitchen sink, and this is when LAFC started to go into that bunker mode, trying to hold on to this 3-2 lead, which in the end they were able to do so. As in the end, LAFC just able to hang on to win 3-2 in this one. And the shots in this one, 12 shots compared to the 10 that RSL had, 7 shots on goal compared to the 2 that RSL had. Both teams had 4 shots off target, 1 shot that was blocked compared to the 4 that RSL had. And possession-wise, 42% possession compared to the 58% possession that RSL has in this game. And yeah, I mean, this was just a very strange but also wild game to conclude match week number 24. But you know, for LAFC, it's a big win for them because they have now tied with RSL in terms of that 7th position, although RSL still has that 7th position because of goal differential. But you can definitely see that, you know, RSL, there's got to be some concern knowing the fact that you know they're now that team that is just above the red line, and they just have no more breathing room in terms of trying to stay above the red line. Because again, LAFC, you know, I said in my video back on Tuesday some of the team that is most likely to make it to the playoffs despite being below the red line, and I think I put second for LAFC as the most likely team to go up the red line despite the fact that they're below it. And this is the reason why. I mean, the talent is started to show, and they're started to try to make a late resurgence to not only get themselves above the red line, but also potentially comfortably make the playoffs this season. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below what do you think of these 11 games that happened in match week number 24. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.